Welcome to the relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that the Gervonta Davis people are once again playing the name association game, as Gervonta Davis's coaching staff believes Lomachenko bout wouldn't last 2 rounds.
Well, didn't Ryan Garcia just go 7?
Didn't Gamboa go 12? And Isaac Cruz?
Yeah, I don't believe these guys.
So Lomachenko, a lifelong dream awaits him on May 20th. The Ukrainian will pull out every trick available to him when he challenges undisputed kingpin Devin Haney. With just a few weeks remaining before the official clash, Team Davis admits that they'll be glued to their television screen from the opening bell. Ultimately, both Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis, Davis's head and assistant trainers, are firmly of the belief that Haney's youth, size, and overall skills will be a bit too much for Lomachenko to handle. If, however, the former pound-for-pound star turns back the clock and pulls out the victory, Ellis in particular would love for Davis to finally face him in the ring.
How long have we been hearing that?
For 6 years.
6 of them.
We saw Gervonta Davis swerve that Vasyl Lomachenko fight. Make no mistake, this has been going on since 2017. And in that time, other young fighters have sprouted up, and other young fighters have fought or are set to fight Vasyl Lomachenko, while Gervonta Davis, who's older than they are,
His team is still making empty promises.
I don't expect that Gervonta Davis will fight Vasyl Lomachenko if he wins. I don't expect that they'll fight Devin Haney if he wins.
Gervonta's a hype job.
The only hype job at or around these weights bigger than Gervonta Davis is the guy he just knocked out. Ryan Garcia, a guy who's had a lot of hype surrounding him, not because of someone that he beat or a belt that he won, but because he has a big social media following.
Still guys are hype jobs.
As far as Vasyl Lomachenko and Gervonta Davis, in terms of how a bout between them would play out, Ellis paused for a second whilst taking a look into his crystal ball. Davis, widely known as one of the most devastating punchers in the world, has stopped the vast majority of his foes that stood across from him. His propensity for inflicting pain on his opponents and taking them out of their misery relatively quickly will only be exacerbated, according to Ellis, if Lomachenko attempts to stand and bang with him. Tank will knock him out in 2, said Ellis during an interview with ESNews.com.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
This guy needed 6 rounds for Leo Santa Cruz. Basic, lukewarm Leo. 6 rounds for Leo, 6 for Rolly.
7 for Ryan.
7 rounds for a fucking prospect. A weight-drained prospect. 7 for Ryan.
7.
9 for Hector. 9 for Hector, who moved up from super featherweight up to lightweight.
All of 12 for Yuriorkis Gamboa, and he didn't stop Isaac Cruz. He didn't stop him at all.
But I'm supposed to believe that he knocks out Vasyl Lomachenko in 2 rounds
Bullshit.
when he needed 12 rounds to stop a one-legged Yuriorkis Gamboa, who'd already been stopped before 2 times.
Davis is a hype job.
His fans are idiots.
His entire team are a bunch of grifters.
Immediately after the Ryan Garcia fight, when the numbers came in, they fancied him the face of boxing. What's the face of boxing worrying about Vasyl Lomachenko for? It's not like you're gonna fight him.
Or Devin if he wins. We all know you're going to fight Rolly or Isaac.
Which is why they're still making empty promises, which is why they're still playing the name association game. They know just as well as I or you that Gervonta Davis won't make in his next fight what he made in the last one, what he sold in the last one. Ryan is the reason that pay-per-view was as successful as it was.
Not Gervonta.
A lot of people don't like Gervonta. They don't like Gervonta Davis. You've been dangling this carrot in reference to Vasyl Lomachenko in front of the fight fans for something like 6 years. For 6 fucking years.
Everybody can see that you're aging him out.
In some ways, I disagree. I don't actually think that Gervonta is aging him out, because aging him out implies that he had some intention of fighting him. And I'm of the opinion that he never did. That neither he or his handlers ever had any intention of making a fight with Vasyl Lomachenko. Not then, and not now.
If he turns back the clock, he goes in there and beats Devin. You bozos think Gervonta's going to fight him.
You do realize that if Gervonta Davis really wanted a fight with Vasyl Lomachenko in that scenario, he has every tool at his disposal to make it happen. Every tool to do it. Did you forget that Gervonta Davis holds a WBA regular title at lightweight, and he can use that WBA regular title to force a fight with Vasyl Lomachenko
as his mandatory challenger.
Did you forget that? Did you forget that this guy's supposed to be the cash cow at or around these weights? Some people think he's the face of boxing. Well, if he's the face of boxing and Vasyl Lomachenko wins, then have Gervonta make him an offer and make it happen.
Balls in your court, hot shot.
If you're the cash cow and you're the face of boxing, the onus is on you to make it happen.
The Baltimore Butterball is currently under house arrest for the next 3 months, but that does leave his fall and winter schedule open to pursue the winner of this fight with Vasyl Lomachenko and Devin Haney. I don't think he's going to.
I think he's a piece of shit and a hype job, and I think the only reason that people are enamored with him is because of his poor kid from Baltimore story.
I don't give a fuck if he was a poor kid from Baltimore.
Boxing is a poor man's sport. The vast majority of boxers come from poverty.
There's nothing unique about Gervonta Davis' story. What's unique about Gervonta is how much they have to protect him and how long they've been doing it.
How long this has been going on? 6 years. 6 fucking years. Before it became about Loma versus Lopez or Loma versus Haney, it was about Loma versus Davis. You've been swerving that guy that long.
You're a fucking phony.
A fraud, a false idol, a hype job.
But Mike Tyson said...
I don't give a fuck what Mike Tyson said. Mike Tyson said that Manny Pacquiao would beat Floyd Mayweather, and we see how that worked out.
I picked Floyd to win that fight, by the way.
I don't give a fuck what Mike Tyson said.
I don't care.
First sight of any criticism levied towards Gervonta Davis, his supporters will call you a quote-unquote hater.
They don't have the hierarchy of thought or critical thinking skills to analyze what it is you're saying, determine whether or not it's true.
They'll just cry and complain in the comments under this video, calling me a hater.
So what?
Is there something written somewhere says I gotta like this fucking butterball?
Huh?
You gonna tell me his poor kid from Baltimore story again?
So what?
Socioeconomic factors are supposed to change my mind?
So what?
Are we here to talk socioeconomic factors, or are we here to talk boxing? Because I thought we were here to talk boxing, and when it comes to boxing, he's a fucking hype job.
Comprendo, friendo.
He's not fighting Lomachenko. He's not fighting Devin. He's not fighting Shakur. He's not fighting nothing.
Nobody.
He's gonna keep fighting those grade A retards over there on the PBC side of things, where he finds refuge from the rest of the boxing world.
You gonna get mad at me for saying it?
Then pressure him to prove me wrong.
You gonna get mad at me for saying it?
Fight the winner of Haney versus Lomachenko. I dare you. I double dare you.
Do it.
He's not going to, because he's a coward. And so are his fans. That's why they identify with him, because he's a coward, and so are they.
Cowards.
Pussies.
You find your balls yet?
You've been looking for him for 6 years when it comes to this guy, this Lomachenko guy.
Coward.
Cowardice of Gervonta Davis is reflected in the fans that support him, because believe it or not, it's not that many people. Don't let the 1.2 or the 1.4 million people that bought that fight fool you. They didn't buy it to see him. They thought Ryan could pull it off. I knew better.
Said Ryan was gonna get knocked out.
Though most of the people that bought that fight bought it to support Ryan, not Gervonta. Gervonta's a coward.
He ain't gonna fight shit.
You're not gonna do shit.
Nothing.
Not gonna do shit, but cry in the comments and call me a hater.
So what?
What are you gonna do about it?
Nothing. You're not gonna do nothing. And he's not gonna do nothing. He's not gonna fight the winner of Haney versus Lomachenko.
When it comes to Haney versus Lomachenko, Devin Haney says, I don't like Loma. I want to beat him bad. Send him into retirement. And he just might if Lomachenko falters for the 3rd time in his career. He made me wait 4 years to fight him, since I was 20 years old. Haney noted during the first part of ESPN's Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Haney versus Lomachenko series, which premiered last Sunday. I don't like Loma. I want to beat him bad. I want to send him into retirement.
Haney, 29-0 with 15 KOs, will defend his fully unified lightweight title reign versus Ukraine's Lomachenko, 17-2 with 11 KOs, atop a May 20th ESPN pay-per-view event from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Haney's current hometown of Las Vegas, Nevada.
I look at this fight as a win-win for the fans.
Yeah.
A win if Devin wins, and a win if Lomachenko wins for those who support him. If Vasyl Lomachenko wins, he will prove the naysayers wrong and see that dream realized of becoming this division's undisputed champion if he falters. And Devin wins.
It's still a win, because Devin, being a young fighter, younger than Gervonta Davis, he's setting a good example for the other young fighters that are coming through. Don't run from the tough fights, run to them.
It's where your legacy is. Haney is viewed by Bet365 Sportsbook as the favorite to prevail over Lomachenko, 11 years his senior, and who enters as the challenger and as the smaller fighter. It's unfamiliar territory for the 2-time Olympic gold medalist and former 3-division title holder, who is normally afforded a position of power in nearly every fight since his June 2014 WBO featherweight title win over Gary Russell Jr.
It's true that Vasyl Lomachenko is not often the underdog in his fights, but neither is Devin Haney.
When has Devin Haney ever been the underdog in any of his fights? He wasn't the underdog in the Linares fight, the Diaz fight, not even in the Cambosos fight.
I don't think he was the underdog in the first one, and he certainly wasn't in the second, not after the first.
Neither Vasyl Lomachenko or Devin Haney often find themselves being underdogs going into a fight. Devin added, Loma has never been the underdog. This time, he's fighting the champion, the bigger guy, the stronger guy, the faster guy, the younger guy. All the odds are stacked against him.
They might be, though if he succeeds, that will only help to make the victory that much sweeter. Whether you've got Vasyl Lomachenko winning this thing, or Devin Haney, a pure boxer. Pure boxers, I'm not often fond of pure boxers.
Stylistically, it doesn't make for the most entertaining fights. Pure boxers don't. But the reason I've got a soft spot for Devin is because he's not a coward like Gervonta Davis.
Where Gervonta Davis was looking for every excuse in the book not to fight Vasyl Lomachenko and moving away from that fight, Devin has always been running towards it.
Do you think for a second that Gervonta Davis would ever in his life, ever in his career, board a plane to challenge for the undisputed crown as the away fighter, the away champion?
He wouldn't challenge for the undisputed crown in his own neck of the woods, let alone someone else's.
And we know he's been avoiding a Vasyl Lomachenko fight for something like 6 years. Devin Haney, in a lot of ways, is the fighter that Gervonta Davis isn't.
The fighter he pretends to be. The most you can say about Gervonta is he has more marquee value than Devin, but not more guts.
So when it comes to marquee value, you have to question how this upcoming pay-per-view is going to do, what kind of numbers it's going to bring in. It doesn't have to bring in all that much to be on par with what Gervonta Davis brings in, lest we forget.
Gervonta's been on pay-per-views 6 times, and 5 out of his 6 pay-per-views didn't crack 300,000 buys. 5 out of the 6 came in at just north of 200,000, at or around 200,000. If this pay-per-view does what those pay-per-views did,
Gervonta Davis will have no excuse to not fight the winner, to not face the winner of Haney versus Lomachenko.
don't let the 1.2 or the 1.4 million fool you into thinking that that's what Gervonta Davis is going to do in every fight moving forward. He isn't.
He only did that because he had Ryan Garcia opposite the ring to help him sell it. By himself, he's only good for at or around 200,000 buys. And if Devin can do that with this Lomachenko fight,
If he can do that, or something close to it,
the guys Gervonta Davis has fought in the past, leading up to their fights, those weren't box office fighters, box office draws.
up until those Gervonta Davis fights, these are fighters that had never been on pay-per-view, whereas in the case of Devin,
If he wins, he, unlike those fighters, can say that he has sold a pay-per-view or two before. And if the numbers for this pay-per-view are on par with what Gervonta Davis normally brings in,
he's going to put Gervonta Davis under pressure to fight him. Fight the winner of this fight, whoever it is.
Devin says he doesn't like Vasyl Lomachenko. He says he wants to retire him. Big talk, very big talk. But I don't mind it because Devin ain't just talking to be talking. He's talking about a guy he's about to fight later on this month. He's putting his money where his mouth is. And as a boxing fan, that's what you want.
That's what you pay to see.
In men's super middleweight news, resident PBC hype job David Benavidez posted this to his Instagram stories, a picture of himself alongside Canelo Alvarez with a caption that reads, "Let's give the people what they want to see." And it is true. I do want to see this. I'd rather see this in September than a B-Ball rematch.
Said that many times.
So it's strange that David is taking to his social media to call out Canelo Alvarez when it was him and his team who stated quite plainly that they entered into a 3-fight deal that started with the Caleb Plant fight. And they're looking at Demetrius Andrade, they're looking at David Morrell, they're looking at Jermall Charlo.
That's what they said.
Basic Benavidez took on David Lemieux in May of last year, a year ago.
And that must have been the final fight of that existing deal, because afterwards he entered into a new one.
Late last year, news broke that David had entered into a contract to take on Caleb Plant. It was supposed to be the first fight of a 3-fight deal. Caleb Plant, David Morrell, possibly Jermall Charlo.
And I'm just wondering, if your old deal was up in May,
Right?
and you were able to make a new deal with a new outfit, why'd you stay over there on PBC Island? Why would you stay over there if you knew that Canelo was on the Matchroom and DAZN side of things? If that's what you wanted.
He's the A side. You're the B side. Not even the B side. You're the D side.
Right.
If you want Canelo Alvarez or you wanted him, why didn't you cross over to Matchroom and DAZN if your old deal was up?
When it came to the Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. fight back when Terrence was still with Top Rank, what the Heyman Haymanites used to say is that if Crawford wants that fight, he's got to go to the PBC side of things because Errol is the A side. The same thing they currently say about Gervonta Davis. That if any of these other guys that are with other outfits want him, they have to go to the PBC side of things because he's the A side. So how does that not apply to Canelo Alvarez, who sells more than all of those guys, sells more than Errol Spence Jr., sells more than Gervonta Davis, has sold more for a very long time now? Why doesn't that apply to David? Why does it seem like the only way a fight with Canelo and David happens is if Canelo crosses over to David's side?
He's not the A side.
Yes, sir. So, does that mean you'd be willing to fight on the zone if that's what Canelo wanted?
No, I believe that his contract expired on the next fight.
Canelo Alvarez has taken care of his WBO mandatory challenger, John Ryder. Beat him in one-sided fashion, and now the story is they're looking at a B-ball rematch. But if that rematch doesn't happen,
I guess my question is, if Canelo wanted the fight with David to happen on the Matchroom and DAZN side of things,
where the B-ball rematch would have taken place, we see there's a problem.
we see there's trouble in paradise because Samson Lukowicz ain't got no intention of sending David to DAZN.
Even though he is so obviously the B-side to Canelo Alvarez, even though he's not really a champion, Canelo's got all the marbles, all the belts, the full titles at 168.
David ain't nothing but a mandatory challenger.
But we end up seeing a sides of the street situation once again involving Canelo and David Benavidez, like what we saw for a long time between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr.
We shouldn't, because David's not a champion.
If that logic applied to the Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford situation, to where Errol is the A side to Terence Crawford,
Because he sells more. Does that same logic not apply to Canelo and David? Canelo sells more than David. He sells more than Errol.
it's almost like Al Heyman, his fighters, and the resident Heymanites, the cult of fans they have. It's almost like they don't want to accept that Canelo is the A side here.
He likes working with Eddie Hearn. He likes fighting on DAZN. And that's all you rubes need to know.
It's not a fucking argument. It's not a fucking debate, but it looks like that's what they're in the market for, more than a fight, because if what David really wanted was a Canelo Alvarez fight, crossing over to Matchroom and DAZN would have brought him closer to it. And he chose not to do that. He chose to stay on PBC Island.
So he can keep barking from behind the fence.
So is he in the market for a Canelo Alvarez fight, or is this just more marketing, more promotion by way of name association?
I want to see Canelo smack this kid in the mouth.
I don't know that Canelo Alvarez has an aversion to going back to the PBC side of things for that fight should things with Dimitri not work out.
I don't know.
Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but it would have made the situation less complicated had David brought himself closer to that fight.
And he didn't.
So here we are, back at square one with another PBC hype job barking from behind the fence.
This is what these guys always do.
If nothing else, he knows that Canelo wants a B-ball rematch.
He said he's supposed to be fighting Morrell in the fall. So fight Morrell in the fall.